Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, MJ Clark. This is the Re-Viewpoint, where we go ahead and review movies, TV shows, and things of that general nature. Now, I know that I don't release them as frequently as I'm supposed to be. I'm trying to change that. I did, however, just get married, and we just moved into a new house, and we have a new dog. So there's a lot of new. So there's some adjustment. I will be releasing more frequently, but needless to say, life is going very swimmingly and very beautifully for me right about now. Today, we're going to be reviewing Fast and Furious 9. Now, Fast and Furious 9, much like the most recent Fast and Furious movies, is directed by veteran director of the franchise, Justin Lin, who, as always, puts together a very competently well-looking, beautiful movie. However, this is the one in the last several that was not written by the same person. And that's where there's a huge difference here. There are times in this movie that they don't feel like Fast and Furious. They feel like someone trying to do Fast and Furious. You know, the thing is, I love the Fast and Furious franchise. I truly do. And I love it because it's an experience where you can escape to. You know that it's improbable. You know that all these stunts they're pulling off and all these things they're surviving, no human being is gonna survive half the things that they do. And I'm sorry, but cars cannot catch a human body from a 30-foot drop without so much as a scratch or a few ribs being cracked and or broken. That's just not how it's gonna go. The thing with this movie is that it is a very fun movie. Like all the Fast and Furious movies are fun, but some Fast and Furious movies suffer from one problem. Some are very forgettable. Fast and Furious 6, kind of forgettable. The Furious, or Fate of the Furious, a little forgettable. The only things that make these movies memorable are certain moments when the stories really do line up a bit better and they don't feel like setups to other stories. Like how the Fast Five, you didn't know where they were going to go from there. It felt like a turning point in the series, especially since Fast Five was essentially the start of this new line of Fast and Furious movies we've been getting. It was said from the get-go by Vin Diesel that Fast 5 was essentially a start of a soft reboot for the franchise. They were losing viewership on just the street racing and the older school movies that they used to do, and they saw that all these superhero movies and these bigger budget movies were doing so well, so they decided to take that and kind of shift it into a soft reboot. Keep the faces you know, but add the stakes, add the higher octane, add the military into the mix, add the FBI into the mix, add international races and espionage in the mix, and all these things that are spy movie-esque or superhero movie-esque. Huge destruction of buildings and super soldiers and all these different things. And although people complain about that now, those are the same people who sit there and say they miss the old Fast and Furious. And they stopped watching, and that's what made the writers and studio and Vin Diesel decide, well, why don't we try to change the game a little bit, and this is what we have now. So Vin Diesel, he's doing the best he can. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. He saw that it wasn't going the way that he had hoped after the fourth movie, technically the third movie, I guess, because Tokyo Drift is, in fact, set in the future after Furious 6. But he did what he could to capture the world's attention, and then Furious 7 made over $1 billion with a B dollars at the box office. Now, of course, that would be in part to it being Paul Walker's last performance on the film, seeing as he passed away very prematurely and very unfortunately before the movie's actual conclusion of filming and principal photography. Now, in this movie, we're following Dom and the rest of the crew on a chase for some kind of device that, if two halves are put together, they can control all the satellites in the world and all the missile and weapon guidance systems that all the world's governments have, and they can basically bomb the entire world and start a new world order. murder. Now, his brother, John Cena, works for the person trying to essentially collect these two different halves. From here, we go into a very convoluted amount of exposition dealing with a lot of backstory between Dom and his brother, played by John Cena, where we're finding out exactly why Dom and Jacob essentially were not around each other at all the last 8 movies, and there was never a mention of his brother. And we finally see what happened to his father, as well as also seeing how Vin Diesel, or Dom Toretto himself, wound up incarcerated in prison, and why he is sort of the way that he is. And there is so much exposition and many different parts of this movie where it cuts to flashback. There's so much flashback in this movie. And then not only that, but then the most predictable explanation of why Han is somehow miraculously back from the dead. And I'm not going to spoil that for you, but I saw the exact explanation they gave is the one that I assumed they were going to use. And that says a lot that they didn't really try. It was a very lazy way of just going, Han's alive, and you'll accept it because you miss him. And now that Han's back, you'll have to like Shaw's character played by Jason Statham, even though he's the one who killed him in Tokyo Drift, that we didn't reveal he's the one who killed him until Furious 7. And then we made you love him in Fate of the Furious by making him save Dom's kid and making him kind of do a comedy act with his brother in that movie, where they were just trying to be lovable, and we were supposed to just immediately love him in Hobbs and Shaw with The Rock, even though we were all the while apparently supposed to be forgetting that he murdered Han, a franchise favorite, because Tokyo Drift has always been one of the most favorite and most beloved Fast and Furious movies of all because of Han's performance and character in the movie. Now that Han's back, we can love them both equally. Problem solved, lazy explanation given. You'll like it or you won't. This is what it is. And that's how it was written. This movie feels like it was written by somebody who did not understand the characters, the plot, or even at all just what a Fast and Furious movie is supposed to be written as. Even with all the superhero elements, even if you take away all the improbability, there is a core base to each of these movies that is written a very particular way, that feels a very particular way, a very particular tone. There's an attitude and energy in those movies. This didn't have that. At least not all the way. They tried. I think the performances were, what they're expected to be, generally good, or, generally passable in some cases, like the villain in this movie, next, apart from Charlize Theron, because Charlize Theron's great in everything. She gives a great performance, even with horrendous dialogue. The other guy, some British guy, very forgettable. You forget he's even a bad guy, and the guy that's paying John Cena until you see him on screen. You go, oh yeah, that guy. That guy's here. Oh, he's going to talk. And he has the most opprobrious, most incredibly juvenile dialogue. He has an exchange in the movie with Charlize Theron about how he's a Star Wars character. I'm Luke Skywalker. And she goes, no, you're not. And he goes, oh, then I'm Han Solo. And she goes, no, I see you more as a Yoda. And he goes, why? And she goes, because he's a puppet with someone's hand up his ass. Oh. And it's the most juvenile dialogue written that I've seen. So whoever wrote this, please don't write the 10th one. Even though Vin Diesel and them said forever ago that the last 3, Fate of the Furious, F9, and whatever the 10th is meant to be titled, to be deed, they were going to be essentially a trilogy. And that's why these last 2 movies, this one and Fate of the Furious, feel so very in line with why we're jumping the gun with all this excess super heroes, super, toned Fast and Furious. Because even up until Fast and Furious 7, there was still crazy shit in there that should not have been survived. But it wasn't as over the top until we get Fate of the Furious, where the whole submarine explodes and rolls in the Arctic towards Dom, and they just all race to line their cars up to shield him from the blast of fire, which wouldn't have worked because he ducked down 2 feet, and their cars, which are like an extra 1.5 feet over his head with him ducked down, just covered the blast of a submarine that just exploded 40 feet from him. Okay, so now we're getting into the ridiculous. And then Hobbs and Shaw, 10 times more ridiculous, with Idris Elba's character being a super soldier with an exosuit that gave him super strength and super agility and leaping and all this crazy stuff. Okay, I can go to a Fast Furious movie and I can suspend my disbelief enough to have fun. Regardless, that part of me, I still love the movie. Regardless, the movie is still fun for me, because I can suspend my disbelief like I'm supposed to. These are movies you need after a global pandemic. Ones that truly suspend your disbelief, take you out of the real world into something very fantasy and so far left field that it makes you truly like, just, what am I watching? But in a good way, where it distracts you wholeheartedly because it's so outlandish. And that can make a great movie, at least for entertainment value. It's not a so bad it's good. It's a decently made movie. It's a competently made movie by Justin Lin. It's unfortunately terribly written as far as what they were making and having the characters say dialogue-wise. The script feels stop and go, when the middle half drags because we get so much exposition in the middle half of this movie. My new wife, who went with me reluctantly on a date night, was willing to give it a chance, was trying not to fall asleep so she could be there for me to watch the movie and spend that time with me and bond with me, and she was fighting sleep during the middle half of this movie. It starts off very rampant, amazing action set pieces, incredible stunt work, but then you have ridiculous things like John Cena running Dom's head through the top of a door frame, concrete and plaster mold, smashes his head through it, blows it into a trillion pieces, drops him on the ground, and he just stands up and shakes it off like nothing happened. There's a guy in this movie in a fight sequence on top of a moving vehicle against John Cena who is standing head level with a fucking exit sign or something on a highway. It literally hits him full force at like 45, 50 miles an hour and just creates like a cartoon cutout of his body ripped through the sign, and he's just standing there like, oh, that almost knocked me for a loop. It's the most ridiculous shit they've ever written into one of these scripts. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but now here comes the filmmaker side of me, the person who breaks down the film in the aspect of, this is why people stopped watching this franchise. Because some people can't suspend their disbelief enough to watch something that they're going to see as laughable. And if you're going to take someone to this movie for the first time who hasn't seen the other 8, they're going to go, is this what you've been watching the whole time? What the fuck is this? I thought this was about street racing and beers and Coronas, and I'm Dominic Toretto, and it's about family. We're all family. And you think that it's all about family, and now it's all about how many stunts can we survive and how many cars are gonna catch our bodies falling 100 feet. I mean, there's a scene in this movie where Dom lifts a guy up over his head with so much ease from the hem of his pants and the back of his bulletproof vest, lifts him over his head like Hulk, and just gorilla slam presses his body onto a steel rail that shatters in half and just snaps this guy's spine. And I'm supposed to believe that Vin Diesel can pull that off. A full-size man who, by the way, standing next to him in the scene is bigger than him. Sure, okay. Damn near 50-year-old Vin Diesel. Sure. The Rock, maybe. But he's not even in this movie, because he's having a falling out with Vin Diesel and Tyrese Gibson for like the last 2-3 years now. Look, all in all, for escapism, this movie is great. For coming out of a pandemic and all the uncertainty of the last year and just enjoying a popcorn, adrenaline ride of a film, for the action set pieces, for the sequences, just even if you're coming back because you love these characters for the last 20 years, I'm all for it. I went to go see this movie because I've loved these characters for the last 20 years and because I like the fun of the movies. But this movie, especially at the end, goes to a place that they cannot come back from in this franchise, where they are going to lose so many people. just from the scene, who are going to love it or they're going to hate it. And there's going to be no middle on it. It is so outlandish. It is them trying to capitalize on all the memes and all the talking points and all the fun people have poked online, because they're trying to be in on the joke themselves, to not take themselves too seriously. But it isn't going to work that way, because there's a ridiculousness to this nature that just does not work out. It just does not. Also, there's an after credit sequence in this movie, so you do want to stick around after the credits for that. I'm pretty sure it either involves a sequel to Hobbs and Shaw, or it's a sequel to the 10th and final film, but stick around for that. All in all, guys, for the love these films have given me, all my gripes aside, all the craziness aside, I'm going to go ahead and give this film, just for sheer escapism and fun, I'm going to go ahead and rate this film a B-. Guys, thank you so much for coming back. Again, my name is MJ Clark. I'm going to be doing a review on Black Widow this next upcoming weekend, because I am going to see it premiere night. I've been waiting a long time for this one. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and get me out there. I'm going to be releasing more of these videos now that we're starting to get some things underway at home, and we're doing better, and everything's all good, and life is settling down, and I'm all excited, all right? Thank you guys so very much. Take it easy.